Let's do this. Are we live?
We are. People are going to start joining, so let's give them a couple of minutes.
Oh yeah, I see the attendees joining. Awesome. Oh, it's filling up quick.
Hello, everyone. We are just waiting for a few more folks to join. So we're going to start in about 2 to 3 minutes.
And as you can see, guys, yeah, we're using Zoom this time around. So you will find a question section at the bottom of your screen where you will be able to write your questions. And we'll go through them at the end of the session. Or if you want to ask, questions directly to our guests, please let us know and we'll grant you permissions. So yeah, just keep that in mind.
Okay, we are 20 people right now. So I think we can get started. Well, thank you everyone for joining to the Sitecore User Group session 20. Today we have a very, very special guest. We have Rui Ewald. I did it correctly. Rui Ewald from Sitecore. He is the Senior Director for Commerce Products. And he's going to be walking through Sitecore Search with a brief introduction and then a demo. As Daniel mentioned, please feel free to ask any questions that you might have. There's a Q&A section where you can ask questions. And also, if you want to speak, then just in the question, just let us know and we'll give you access to do that. My name is Richard Leva. I'm a Sitecore MVP. I'm the organizer of the Sitecore User Group Ecuador. And here with me, we have Daniel Pastor.
Hey guys, yeah, thank you for joining us. We have like a super exciting session today. So yeah, I'm also a Sitecore MVP and co-organizer of this Sitecore user group. And yeah, without further ado, we have Rui Ewald. I think I didn't butcher your name either, who's going to talk about, Sitecore Search.
Awesome, thanks. Rui, take it away.
Okay, thanks for having me, folks. It's very exciting to be here and to be able to talk about Sitecore Search. So I'm going to share my screen and I have a little presentation to introduce what Sitecore Search is, and then we can dive off the presentation and go into some of the controls, the things that you and your clients can access to modify the search behavior, configure the search behavior, and analyze its performance. So, but today I'm going to give you the same or a very similar presentation as the one that I gave in October last year at Symposium. Of course, the product has been evolving weekly for the last 4-5 months now, since launching in December. Okay, so yeah, let's get started. Please feel free to ask any questions, interrupt me anytime. The session's for you. The more dynamic we can make it, I'm sure, if you have a question, somebody else has the same question. So please ask it so I can address and make sure that we're all on the same page. Okay, so what is Sitecore Search? Okay, this is the one paragraph topic here. So it's a headless content discovery platform. Okay, I'm going to read it verbatim. With generic connectors that allow us to extract or index, bring that content in essentially. And there are a number of controls for you to manage what is displayed per key phrase and segment, A/B test algorithms, analyze, and self-configure what search does in terms of, what are the sorting options, what are the facets, what is used to match key phrase to documents, etc. Okay, so all of our services are headless, but as you will see, we have in our implementation, we have ways for you to use our SDK to implement that headlessly into your site without having to know the APIs. And there's also UI components that are already available. They're, of course, headless components, which are styled by default, but of course you can just override those. So I'm going a little bit deeper than what I meant for this first slide, but let me know if you have any questions. Okay, but in essence, you can build anything, any experience on the site that requires search and recommendations, you can build it with Sitecore Search. In fact, to fine-tune that even more, okay, I'm going to use reference to a Gartner Magic Quadrant. They have what is called the Gartner Insights Engines Magic Quadrant. And in there, you'll see that there's several different use cases or primary use cases of search or discovery platforms. And, amongst the four, I don't know if you're familiar with this, they essentially use the same critical capabilities, which are the items on the rows here, and they score them differently depending on the use case, right? The use case that best fits Sitecore Search, and the one that we're really pushing forward with, is this external website search. And the reason being is that our DNA actually comes from product discovery, right? Reflection is the company that was acquired by Sitecore. It was the company that I had at product for the last 5-6 years prior to acquisition. And that company focused on RPVs, right? Raising revenues per visit. So that meant that it was very important to present the right product at the right time, according to the user shopping intent. So if you have 300,000 products, which ones to show when you're only looking at 50 in most sessions, that's what we were trying to solve. And this is also what we are trying to do here with content for external website search, okay? So, yeah, of course, Sitecore has other search providers that are our partners as well, and we have enterprise search. We have search that is more appropriate for internal use cases, and we continue to partner with them in true composability and through spirit of composability. Right? I think there's definitely going to be use cases where we want to advise your customers to go with a Coveo or a Search Stacks or something else. Okay, so please keep that in mind. But what is Sitecore Search really good at? Okay, and I think this is at the core of it. Okay, so not only are we an external website search, okay, presenting the right content for the right person at the right time, but we also empower business users to stay in the business or to fully control what their site is presenting for every key phrase. Okay, so they can ensure that they provide the best possible answer at any given time. Okay, and at the same time, developers or engineers that implement the platform don't have to be involved with how the results look like. Okay, what the results for keyword I don't know, content look like. Okay, that's usually a very arduous process that most partners actually prefer to not have to be involved, and that's exactly what they can do with Sitecore Search. So it's a separation of the two personas. Very clearly, you have a role to play when it comes to implementing, right, using our SDKs and so forth. But then you can move away and let the people that understand what the business wants to show for every key phrase do what they do best, and they're provided with controls, as you will see, to be able to do all of those functions themselves. Okay, so search it requires a very low level of technical skill. Okay, so you don't have to be a search expert. You don't ever have to have used any other search platform out there in order to be able to use Sitecore Search. It's by nature of it being headless, It can empower your omni-channel strategies. It can index content from multiple locations and bring it under a single search bar. It is very easy to integrate. We have an SDK, but nonetheless, most of the logic, because of what I said in the prior slide, where the business user is entitled to make those changes, we want very little logic about how a particular search query should perform to not be in the API request, not be coded into the page, right? We want it to be built into rules that are then controlled from our customer engagement console that we call the CEC, and the API requests to remain very simple. And because of that, you can move away from your implementation, knowing that your customer is in good hands, not only in terms of having control over it, but also in being able to understand its performance. Sitecore search, I tried to build an alphabet soup of what we want to know, what people want to know about it, as well as what comes to mind when I think about it, right? So when they acquired our company, Reflection, and they said, okay, we want to build something similar, but in the content space, we were given a chance to build out our laundry list of things that we would do if we had a chance to do over, right? So there's not a lot of things that we did, but we wanted to make sure that Sitecore search was really the next best thing that we could ever put out there. Okay, so it's extremely fast. I think our P95 right now is around 45 milliseconds, just so you have an idea. This is with rules and with personalization on top. It's compatible to anything because it's a headless search provider, right? So you can build that into anything, a mobile app or a site, server side or client side. It's up to you, right? What code you use to actually build out that experience. It's extremely scalable. Just so you have an idea, its predecessor, which is Reflection, already handled several hundred clients in the e-commerce space, and they have a big shopping season, right, called Black Friday and Cyber Monday, and that already handled over 300,000 RPM. So we're looking at 300 RPM. So we're looking at an engine that is about 60 times faster than Reflection at this point. So we don't even know what that number is, where we start to see a performance degradation at this point. So yeah, it can take not only a massive amount of documents, but also a massive amount of traffic against its APIs. It produces data-driven automation, right? So we are able to track performance of your content pieces as well as the visitors on the other side, so that we can not only re-rank content automatically based on a function that uses indicators that we're collecting, but also we can on the fly personalize what a particular user sees based on their prior recent history. It's very agile. So it's agile in the fact that you can build quickly, right? But also in the fact that somebody can build a rule right now and a second later have search results change globally or just for a particular key phrase or segment of their visitors. But also that it's been improved every week since launch, and it will continue to be. There's massive investment from Sitecore in Sitecore search and for the foreseeable future. It's API exclusive. I already kind of talked about that, but in essence, everything that we do, there's an API for it. You can go directly to the API if you wanted to. Of course, the SDKs wrap the APIs and make it a lot simpler to integrate, copy paste, right? Integration essentially. And yeah, you can implement it anywhere. And it's very flexible. You can query across all content sources, or you can query just a particular content source that you might have. So it gives you the ability to build a universal search or a very focused search on just a particular topic or a particular set of content pieces. Okay. Any questions to this point? I can't see the.
I don't think we have questions right now.
Okay, great. So I'm going to go through the platform capabilities. So this is, what are the components that build out this Sitecore search product that we're talking about? So of course we use search. We use Elasticsearch, the latest version 8.5, I believe. So it's a very good engine to begin with, but you can't compare Sitecore search to Elasticsearch directly. Look how many other services that we've built around it. It's also multi-tenant SaaS, right? So it's already potted, scalable, single sign-on. All of those things are coming with Sitecore search. Visitor profiles and content profiles is what I just talked about. This is what empowers us to not only be able to provide the right content at the right time for each visitor, but also it's what enables the next item, which is tracking and analytics. So as you will see, we have a lot of data on how each content piece is doing, what key phrases are generating, what interest in what content pieces. And you can even bring this idea of conversions from the commerce world into Sitecore search, because we want to be able to rank your content based on conversions, if there are such a thing in your site, right? In the case of Sitecore.com, for example, who has implemented Sitecore search, by the way, we're able to use form fills as a conversion, right? And be able to use that in the ranking function. So what content piece is attributed a conversion is what I'm talking about. You will notice as well that we have connectors, but they're generic at this point, okay? And we're evaluating our strategy as we go with connectors, but today you already have the ability to use our crawler, okay? For web crawling specifically. You can use an API crawler. So if there is, for example, a GraphQL endpoint for some place where you need to index the content from, you can use that. And then the third one is actually a push API. Okay, so that's the ability for you to build a source and say that this content should go to this particular source in Sitecore search for this particular account, and boom, right? All the content just gets pushed there. With that, every time you update a source or a source web crawler runs again, right? Let's say you have it on a recurring basis. We create multiple indexes. Okay, so each time it's a new index, and there's an index snapshot that is built, and there's never any downtime. That's effect number one. But also in the very near future, we're going to make available for you to be able to call a particular index from the API request, for you to be able to roll back to a particular version of the index that you like best. So all of those things are built into the platform capabilities. Context and rules engine, that's the robust piece that sits in the middle, right? That helps us understand what was the key the key phrase typed, and who is viewing that particular key phrase, and what rules might we have in our system for that particular domain that need to be pushed down to our search or recommendation services. Okay, so this is really the brain of the whole thing, the thing that says, okay, deliver this particular rule, right? Boost this particular thing or pin this particular content when people from California type the keyword pants, right? I don't know. This engine is extremely fast. It's written in Golang. It's super efficient. I think it takes about 4 milliseconds on average for it to do its job and pass down rules downstream, or personalization behavior downstream. So it's super fast. Multi-locale and multi-region support. This is our ability to build a partial index of a particular language country combination you might have, right? So if you go to Sitecore search, you see that they have 8 country language combinations there. So per source, you can say, that I have these particular locales, and the system automatically knows to stay within that particular country language combination, which is just something that you pass in the API at runtime, right? So you pass as the key phrase, that locale, and boom, it's done. One Sitecore search account can service all of your domain, all your locales. And then finally, A/B multivariate testing. This is also partially furnished by the context and rules engine, it decides whether a split test is running or not. And then the A/B multivariate testing says, okay, here's variation A or variation B or C, whatever one you need to receive, Mr. User. That's all built in. All of the data is aggregated by our own services based on the same events that you have to integrate to the platform. If you're using the SDK, eventing is already pretty much built in, or most of the way there, at least. And your users will be able to just see within the CEC all of the analytics for each variant. Okay, so that's the platform in a nutshell. Any questions about that?
So
Go ahead.
we have a few questions, but okay, I'm just gonna read read it out loud for you. What are the main distinctions between Sitecore Search and Coveo that you would highlight if you were asked to compare them?
Good question. So I'm not a super expert on Coveo, I'll be honest, but you know, they have been in the content space for a while as an enterprise search. So they are going to be able to furnish results or be a better match, I think, for the use cases, depending on the use case. You know, if you think back to the Gartner Insights Engines Magic Quadrant that I just showed, you know, they will probably be able to field things like be able to build a hosted page for each piece of content that you pass to the engine, even if it's not already online, right? Yeah, I don't know what other use cases they have that we don't. I think they, if I understand correctly, they also have a number of connectors that are pre-built because they're an enterprise search. So they want to bring in Jira tickets. They want to bring in some of these things that, you know, if we're really aiming for an external website search provider as the key foundation for Sitecore Search today, that don't quite make sense for us to invest at this stage yet. And then they have, I believe they have a different approach to personalization. They seem to want to be very precise with when to act to personalize a particular key phrase results. I think they need something like 100,000 visits doing something similar to be able to re-rank results for that key phrase or something like that. That's what I understand, at least from reading their documentation and talking to people that know. And we take a different approach. We're trying to be less precise and more reactive to the current user's intent, right? So coming from commerce, we don't have time to wait for them to come back to the site. And we think the same thing is applicable in the content space. Not a lot of people come back to a content marketing site, for example, right? So within the visit we have, if you have 300,000 pieces of content, you know, which, you know, 20 or 30 that they usually see potentially in the results or in recommendations throughout the system, which ones are the ones that we want to show for sure, right? We want to be very reactive to that, to what they're clicking on, what they're viewing, what key phrase they're typing, and you know, try to bring up things that either via search or via recommendations that they might be most interested in right now, right? So I think those are some of the key differences. But as I said, I'm probably not the most appropriate person to talk about Coveo capabilities and how they differ from what I have.
No, but thank you. I'm sure you get that question often. We do have one more question right now. I'm just going to read it, and it says, does Sitecore Search directly support Sitecore XM Cloud projects?
So like I said, we have generic connectors. Nothing special has been built. And in fact, the more I talk to the partner community, the more people tell me that they don't want something deeply integrated with XM or XM Cloud, like Coveo had actually at some point. We actually only have a few clients that use that integration today. So in researching why that is, it's because most people trust their meta tagging. If they're doing a great job for the client that they're serving by meta tagging the pages properly, then a simple web crawler should be able to just look at those meta tags and do the right thing. So I don't know if that particularly answers the question, but that's the philosophy we're taking. In the future, that's not to say we're not going to do something that will make the two products work together natively from the beginning, but I think the next set of things that we want to be able to do is say, if you have Sitecore XM Cloud and you also have Sitecore Search, automatically index my XM Cloud tenant as a Sitecore Search source. Okay, so that we're working and we'll be there. Okay, so you won't have to necessarily configure anything.
Yeah, we might configure. No, thank you for the answer. We also have one more question, but I think it's a little more technical, so we can probably leave it after the demo, and we'll go through it.
That sounds good. Okay, so moving on from the platform capabilities. Thank you for interrupting me, guys, and for fielding the questions there for me. I appreciate it. So this is a description of the client-facing, the visitor-facing experience capabilities that we make available via the API. Okay, so you're able to customize in the API itself, even though I said keep it simple, right? A lot of developers might want to do more custom implementations that might require you to make a change to relevancy, ranking, or personalization options, sorting options in the API itself. So anything that is a rule today that is supported via rules in the customer engagement console can be passed as a modifier of your API request. Okay, so you can say query is this particular search, but I want relevance for attribute title to be raised to, you know, a particular score, right? Versus what it is today, right? That's something you can put in the API request is what I'm trying to say with item number 1. Suggestions. Okay, we have support for you to create multiple suggestions blocks. Okay, so you can create a suggestion that uses the attribute title, right? Or that mixes title and theme of content. For example, the sky's the limit, right? On how you configure suggestions, and what suggestions you ask for at runtime can be coded into the API request, right? So you can say, I want to retrieve suggestion, you know, did you mean, right? Or suggestion, theme suggestions, theme recommendations, right? You name your suggestions blocks based on what you've constructed in the CEC, and then you make the request by just providing us the string name of that particular suggestion block. So you can have multiple suggestions blocks that the search by return at once. In this example here, you see that I have people also searched for. It looks like we're doing something with the name of or the title of our content pieces to return suggestions there in blue. Okay, faceting and filtering. So this is anything that is extracted from your content. You can say that it should map to a particular attribute in your content object within the CEC. I know it sounds technical, but ultimately all you're doing is you have a content object and you're exposing what attributes exist for that content object. And once that's done, then you can just very simply go to the feature configuration for facets and say, I want, you know, these facets to be present, right? Of course, search will automatically use or not use certain facets, but you are given controls as a business user to say, what are the facets you want to use by default? What is the ordering relative to each other that you want to use by default? You can even say, I want to force this particular facet to be in context, or I don't want to ever show this one for this key phrase, right? That's up to you. But in the API request, you can also say, I want these facets back, okay, ultimately. So the API request always trumps anything. So if you don't keep it simple and you don't ask for all facets, then the right facet will be returned to you. All right, match highlighting. This is really cool because it allows you to tell the user why you returned that particular result, right? And in the API response, you always have a match highlight, and you can even print what attribute of the content returned that particular match highlight. Okay, and you are given the key phrase that actually needs to be bolded, as you see here in my example on the right. Okay. Content recommendations. This is super cool because I think it's a super underserved area of content discovery today. If it's anything like e-commerce, content recommendations should be about 50% of all your conversions should be content that the user did not ask for, but got pushed in their visit to the site. Okay, so content recommendations, we already have the ability to produce, I think it's 3 or 4 different algorithms for content recommendation, contextual algorithms, right? So given the context of what is Content Hub, for example, in this example right here on the right, I can produce for you contextual similar content pieces, or people viewed then converted, or a variation of things using the user context or the context of the particular content piece. From the very beginning of Sitecore Search, questions and answers have been there. Okay, and the reason why is because we felt like it was really core as we studied what is the main difference between commerce discovery and content discovery. We felt like people are actually asking a question. That's the key difference between the two in a content site, right? So we wanted to be able to identify questions when they're asked and be able to provide answers if we have them, as well as providing something like what Google has that that enables them to print out frequently asked questions, or people also asked questions within the result set, and that's supported today. Okay, so you're able to, if you ask for frequently asked questions in the request, you will be given an answer object if we have an answer, right? So you can just print that however you see fit. You can see an example of how we're doing that in Sitecore.com, as well as print out a list of the frequently asked questions that we come up with and their particular answers. That's all provided in the response itself, alongside the actual results, content results in this case. Okay, and the final feature that we have is the ability to bring in your entire pool of other sites into a single search bar, right? So Sitecore Search does that, Sitecore.com does that today by indexing Symposium and some other things. Our documentation team is going to be launching Sitecore Search in July with a superset of capabilities across all documentation across all products. And so will our developer site soon. Okay, and our customers are starting to really implement that to the next level. But ultimately, you can in search, you can say that you want to have results that are returned from these sources by ID. Okay, and that's what allows us to say whether to include or not content from other properties you might have. Okay, so it's very flexible. All right, now turning over to what the business practitioner controls are. Here's a screenshot of what we're working on for rules. There's a version of this. This is the latest and greatest. I wanted you to have that in your mind. But ultimately, they can override what search wants to automatically do. Okay, so they can pin, they can boost, they can blacklist or exclude particular pieces of content. So that gives them kind of like a canvas to paint, right? They type the key phrase that they want to modify. They simply drag and drop a particular piece of content in the spot that you want it to be featured at. Conversely, they may change the algorithm of search itself. That way they are not overriding it over the top, right? They're changing how search algorithm itself is pulling things together and ranking things together.
Rui, just one question that's related to this, so I wanna get it answered. So it's saying content recommendations. Are this statically configured, or is it based on machine learning models?
No, this is all machine learned. Yeah, this is all coming from our ability to track the visitor and the content pieces, right? And to run to add embeddings to each piece of content that is indexed. So in the case of similar items, for example, which is one of the recommendations that we have available for you to just say, okay, what content is in context? Give me similar to this. We're building vectors that are embedded into the content that is indexed. And then we're comparing the vector of the content you gave us in the request and other vectors out there and spitting out results. Okay, so that's just one example, but everything that we do is like that. It's for scalability, right? Nobody is expected to come into CEC and manually code every instance of every recommendation for every content page that they want to paint with recommendations. Okay. So,
Awesome.
does that make sense? Yeah. All right. Cross-attributed analytics. So I already kind of talked about this a little bit, but think of a cube, right? So we attribute conversions or clicks to the widgets, which are each individual placement. So previous search or the autocomplete is a widget. The full page search is another widget. Recommendations are another widget, and so forth. So those are attributed performance, right? So you know what is your best placement on the site, right? What is the best placement for this particular key phrase? You also just have a flat keyword pivot, right? So you have the ability to say, what are people coming to my site right now, right? What are people coming to my site in the last 14, 90 days, right? The types of key phrases that will come up will be vastly different. And once you drill into a particular key phrase, you'll be able to see, okay, what is the piece of content that is being clicked the most when this key phrase is in context, and what are the audiences that are interacting with it most, and so forth. And of course, you have a pivot on content, and that will tell you, okay, what are the key phrases that are the biggest entryways for this piece of content? What are the widgets that are providing the most performance for this content piece, and so forth. So you can really dive in and begin to understand some core KPIs that, as I analyzed the space and I interviewed customers and prospects, people don't really have at hand, right? They don't know what is their core KPI. How do they know they're moving the needle, right, in the right direction? These analytics, I think, will provide a great deal of perspective and hopefully allow clients to be more pragmatic about how they make changes to search and how their Sitecore search service evolves. Okay, I think that's pretty much the end of my presentation. I just have a little testimonial here from Derek Hunziker, who is our lead developer on Sitecore.com. He implemented Sitecore Search. Okay, it's already there, and they used one developer for 1 month. Yes, they cheated. They used I answered some of their questions, but they largely used our documentation. Okay. And now it's even easier because we have an SDK that you can leverage. So they did this all via API directly. Okay, and as we evolve our services, they're going to be at the forefront. So they liked it so much that they're going to be using us, hand in hand with how we enhance the site as well. Okay, but I'm going to dive off the presentation and go into CEC. So if there are any questions, you said there was a question that was potentially.
Yeah, actually, we might have one that might be related to the previous case study. So like Sitecore content is there a sample project plan that can help us outline high-level project lifecycle for Sitecore Search?
For Sitecore Search. So we're building a starter kit for Sitecore Search right now. It's not quite there. I think another week we will have it, but you can always use the Sitecore.com website, right? Or this one that I have. It's also another demo SDK. So all of the requests you'll see here are made in the via the network, so you can learn the API very quickly. So you could say content, right? Filtering. Sorry about that. Yeah, so here I have the ability to see all of the API requests. Let me see if I do something wrong. Content, let's say Content Hub. Okay, so not recognizing. Oh yeah, right here. So here you see the actual request being made, right? So they made a request for RFK ID 6, which is the widget, and so forth. You can begin to learn a bit about how to integrate directly from here. But we're making that a lot easier with the SDK and the starter kit. So I would say wait another couple of weeks, it'll be there. It'll be silly to do it this way now. Yeah.
Right, there's a follow-up question to that. Is there a plan to use the starter kit as a startup project?
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be open sourced, right? So the Sitecore Discover Starter Kit is live now, and you can have a look at what that looks like. I'll show it to you guys as well if you need. So let's go to doc.sitecore.com/discover. Oh, oops, I mistyped. Okay, so here's the get started for Discover, and they have in here integrate using the Discover SDK. Here's the starter kit. Okay, so this is the starter kit for Discover, which is open source. And you can use this as a reference implementation. You can fork out the GitHub repository and go off your own way and see how we implemented the site using the SDK, for example. Okay, so the same thing in the next couple of weeks will be available also for Sitecore Search.
That's
Great.
awesome.
That's perfect.
We have another question. What are some of the most effective strategies and best practices that you would recommend for optimizing Sitecore Search performance, relevance, and user experience in medium-scale enterprise implementations?
Good question. I think the most important thing that we have for you to be able to do is, first of all, make sure that you only index the things that you need to index. I've seen a lot of search providers out there that promise, some magical way of doing things. Hey, just give me a URL, I'll do everything else. And what ends up happening is they get every single meta tag on the page. And that creates a lot of noise, right, for the search relevance. So I would say, make sure that you configure the source by pulling really just the things that make sense for you. So for example, here's the source for Sitecore.com, right? And they're extracting just a few things. This is the advanced crawler because that was what we had at the time. But in here, they're tagging their content and they're pulling just the right tags that they need. Okay, so in this case, yeah, they're looking for just a few pieces of that information. And once that's in, then you have available the ability to go and configure the features of search, right? So here you have the ability to call out any additional attributes that you want your content object to have and how they should be used, right? So in search relevance, to answer your question directly, that's one of the steps of building search. And for Sitecore.com, we're just using title, subtitle, any tags that exist on the pages, right? I think these usually are about what product the article is talking about, the name and the description, okay? Nothing else, right? And these are all meta tags. It's super easy. And those are the things that are used by default in textual relevance. Now, you can fine tune that configuration by going to the relevancy setting here and saying which ones you actually want to use. So you might expose more than you need. You might expose them with multiple analyzers, as you can see. In this case, I'm only using a subset of what I set up. I'm actually giving more emphasis to the title of the content pieces. The description and subtitle are secondary to that, right? And I can overwrite. Then I have a global configuration. And once I have that, then it's about seeing if I can beat that configuration for my top key phrases, right? So the way I find out my top key phrases is first I go to analytics and I click on the keyword analytics, right? So I look at my overview. And here I'll discover, based on the number of clicks or the number of searches, right? What are my top key phrases, right? So it looks like content search is my second one, right? What is XM Cloud? So here I have my top key phrases and I can dive in and see, what am I showing for this particular key phrase? And whether that's the right thing that I should do or not, right? Is this term growing in popularity or not? Who are the people that are viewing it? Am I providing the right content, right? It looks like we are, right? But if this is not consistent with what you believe needs to be done, then you can build a rule, right? Then it's really simple. You just go to that particular widget. Okay, so let's go to, let's say the widget that powers the full page search. I'm doing a 50-50 split test right now. In fact, look at that. So I'm not actually going to launch a rule, but I could say if the key phrase is Sitecore search, right? And I have lots of ways of saying, what should be the key phrase, how to match this rule to be triggered at runtime. But let's just say Sitecore search, right? If that's the key phrase, that's my keyword in context now, right? So here are the articles that I'm providing. I can then go see, I don't know, maybe tags that, or maybe something else. Maybe I want a particular type of content. Maybe I want blogs to show up more. I need to move the cameras here. And that will pull up those pieces of content, right? So let's say I think this one is better. I can analyze it first of all, right? I can do a quick look. And here I can have performance numbers. I don't know why the team hasn't exposed that here, but anyway, I can simply do this and change the results, right? Or I can use boost rules, which are, essentially building a query to push articles up that match my attribute values, right? In some way. Maybe I can say that the product is Sitecore search. That might be an easier way to do this, right? So if I have articles tagged for, it looks like they don't even have yet, right? Articles for Sitecore search. I'm offended. But let's say I wanted to do discover instead. I can simply say, okay, I'm going to boost discover articles, and I can point the boost to that particular location, right? Or right here. Right. So this is another way you can paint the canvas if you wanted to, right? And then finally, they can change the algorithm, as I said, right, to optimize it further, right? So what I'm still answering your question as to how do I build good quality into search? Well, it's already automated based on, first of all, what you're indexing, right? What parts of your content you're indexing and exposing to search. That's used for building vectors as well, which helps overall automated behavior. Secondarily, you can build the global configuration for how textual relevance. One of the steps in coming up with results is you can re-rank results based on things that we're capturing, like clicks or views of content, etc., conversions ultimately, right? And then finally, you can come in here and manually override it or change the algorithm for that particular key phrase in a way that you find to be more attractive or more relevant for you, right? Let's say I did not want to use title anymore, right? That should be a drastic change in quality for my content overall. You see things changed a bit. So does that make sense? I can also change what facets are displayed, right? So it looks like they're hard coding the facets in the API request, but I can say, that I want to see this facet below the product facet. I don't want to display this particular facet, or I want for facets to be displayed to be matching at least 90% of the content pieces, which means all of them will be blacklisted in this case. Anyway, okay, makes sense? So that was answering your question and demoing the system at the same time.
And great question from Francesco. Yeah.
I do have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
So we can have different widgets, right?
Yes.
And I guess one of the things is also making sure that we are creating these widgets correctly and when they are needed, so that we can have different rules per widget, right? Which is going to have, in the end, like different type of content.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
So you can have rules. By the way, widgets are just the placements on the site, right? So we want to be able to have different placements so we understand how that particular location is working from an analytics perspective, and you can direct rules just to them if you wanted to. But you can also set rules globally, okay? There's something what we call a global widget, if you will, that when you set a rule here, all widgets will inherit from, right? So you might have seen, so these are the two global rules I have. It looks just the same, right? Except that both my previous search and my full page search widget and any recommendation widgets that I might have will also have the same behavior, right? I could say boost this theme, or bury any developer documentation, which is silly. Anyway, just an example. But if I come here, for example, in preview search to the list of rules, I will see that I have still I don't have any local widget rules, right, in this case, but I do have the 2 global rules that are being inherited by this particular widget. Okay, so anyway,
Nice.
you can still build other preview searches, right, that you can assign a different string ID that you make a request for in the API that potentially are going to be, that you're going to be doing something different with, or you're going to implement that in a different site, right? You can do all of that through the same Sitecore search domain. So we just want to make sure that whatever content you index in your account, you have the right for, right, to index and to manipulate and to portray into your searches. Yeah. Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, we have another question. This one is related to CDP, and is can Sitecore Search be integrated with Sitecore CDP? Good
question. Today, you can use what we call a user group to integrate with Sitecore CDP. So user group is an object that you can pass in the request, which just contains the string. And that same string can be passed in the rule. Okay, so it's simply something like this. So it's not directly integrated, I should say, right? But you can do something like this, where I have a visitor context that uses a user group, right? So let's say whatever your segment might be named, let's say man over 50. Okay, I don't know. This is my segment, and whatever I do as a behavior here, right? I may pin something, I may blacklist something, I may change the algorithm, whatever it might be. If you pass me that user group in the request, I will trigger this rule for. Okay, so there's not a direct integration yet between the two, but you can pass me a CDP segment under user groups, and I will be able to react to it. The other answer is, whoops, sorry, my Siri decided to butt in here. Is that we're building a segment, okay, also within Sitecore Search, and you will be able to bring down in the very near future CDP segments directly to target with rules from Sitecore Search. So that's coming very, very soon, in the next month or two. That's going to be available. I can, in fact, already start showing that to you today if you wanted. So it's an experimental feature. It's here under domain settings. Yeah, segment builder, save, publish.
Are those experimental features available on our sandboxes or not?
I think they're currently safeguarded for just super users like myself, but this is the future of where we're going. Okay, so you'll be able to build a segment here yourself, okay, using any visitor segment attributes that we expose based on tracking your users, right? So you can say that a user may have clicked greater than 2 times, right, on a particular category or theme. Let's say they viewed the particular category of articles, right, more than 2 times within a certain amount of time. You can, and that these conditions are met, you'll be able to do things like that. You'll be able to preview the segment, how many people that might be, etc. So anyway, not only will you be able to build your own segments here, but you'll also be able to sync down segments from the CDP directly, and be able to then go to a particular widget, right, and add a rule that says, I want to here, sorry if I'm moving too fast, but the visitor context will then be expanded to say, I want to target a segment. And if that segment is in context, then we'll be able to automatically deliver the rule to them. Okay, so this would require us to be mapping users and their segments after you've integrated the CDP segment to Sitecore Search or Discover as well. Okay, but those are, I know I'm giving you a future roadmap of perspective into the future roadmap, but today all we have is that user group to be able to enable rules based on a particular user segment from the CDP. Questions?
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Rui. Yeah, we have one more question on chat. It says, how can we get access to Sitecore Search sandboxes to evaluate?
Good question. So today we're not yet integrated into Sitecore Cloud Portal, okay, which is what will ultimately be the way in which in the very near future you will be able to build the sandbox yourself, or your clients will as well. So in the meantime, you can reach out to our pre-sales team. You can reach out to Chris, Jenny, or myself, and we will configure a sandbox for you. It's something that takes minutes, literally today, to build. So you just go as a super user. I just have to go in here and click this button here, right, for you to have a sandbox. Okay, once I create this, then you'll have it. So it's very quick and simple. We are happy to do it. Just reach out to us and we'll do that for you. But once we're integrated with Sitecore Cloud Portal over the next couple of months, we'll be able to give you the ability to go into that particular organization for your client, and you simply say, I want a sandbox for search, and you're able to then spin it up yourself. And yeah, you'll be able to then configure your own sources and go through the process of building that search sandbox app.
That's awesome. We don't have more questions in the chat right now. I don't know if we want to continue with the demo.
Yeah. Happy to go in whatever direction you guys might find most valuable.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. So let's see. We have how many minutes to go still, guys? No, about 3 minutes.
Oh yes, we are almost at time.
Okay. So I guess I'll leave you guys with the documentation. Okay, so this all is available. These docs that I'm showing are now available in doc.sitecore.com/search. Okay, so if you just go there, you'll see that we have already a great number of Sitecore editorialized documentation on how to get started with with Sitecore Search. It's very quick and simple. It shouldn't be an integration as deep or as difficult to do as XM or XM Cloud, where you're standing up a whole site, right? This is, as I said, our team on the Sitecore.com side is able to integrate Sitecore Search within a month in a single developer. So yeah, we're very excited to get Sitecore Search in your hands, and please keep any feedback coming my way so that I can react quickly and continue to evolve the platform to your needs. Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you very much for this talk and for your time, Rui. This was very, very helpful. And
yeah,
feel free, guys, to join us on the next session. We will keep you posted.
Yeah.
And this was great.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for having me, guys. And if you need anything, let me know. Please reach out to me. You all have my contact information. If I can't do it myself, I'll ask somebody to do it. And if you guys need me to come back and talk about any particular topic within search and discovery, I'm happy to do it. So
thank you, Rui. I'm sure some people will be ringing your phone. And thank you for showing us Sitecore Search, which is especially relevant now that XM Cloud is on the horizon.
Exactly.
Yeah, and for everyone else, we'll be uploading this video to YouTube, so you can, go through the demo on the different sections, and there you will be able to find us, on the different social media links on the description. We're also on Meetup, as you know, so please follow us there. And until next time, guys, thank you for joining.
Thank you, everyone. See you
Bye,
next time.
guys.
Bye-bye.